So we're trying to get from Marcion, who generally we date Marcion around about 140. That's when he's flourishing. Okay, so he born a couple of decades earlier, probably dies a decade or so later, which means he's an exact contemporary of Justin Martyr, who's born in the year 100 and dies at age 65, in 165. So Justin Martyr, very traditional, conservative, orthodox person, Marcion, are basically absolute contemporaries in many, many ways. So what's going on? So Marcion is flourishing round about the time of the Bar Kokhba rebellion. He's put out for his churches a version of the gospel, which he just calls the gospel. And we may actually have one manuscript, which is a fragment of Marcion's Evangelion. It's always been seen as a weird version of Luke, but actually it might be a fragment of Marcion's gospel. The data could be read either way. And of course he was very much promoting Paul. Then we go forward another 25 to 50 years, you get to roughly 200. A couple of things are happening. The Jewish community, picking up the pieces after the Bar Kokhba revolt, which was a disaster and decimated the Jewish population in Galilee, they have picked up the pieces, and they've particularly under the leadership of Rabbi Judah Hanisi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, they have published the Mishnah, the first codification of the post-biblical Jewish traditions, the Mishnah, by 200. By 200, you have the earliest manuscripts, codices, Chester Beatty manuscripts we call them, which have all four Gospels for the first time. Okay, that's our earliest evidence, and is usually dated around 200. It could actually be as late as 250 or even later, but most scholars have said on the basis of handwriting it's around about 200. So by Marcion, say 130, 140, and round about the year 200, we have the four Gospels, and the Jewish community have the Mishnah. So you can see that both Jews and Christians are codifying the documents which are going to shape their life together. And the Chester Beatty manuscripts not only include the four Gospels, but they also include the sort of letters of Paul, as well as some of the other New Testament manuscripts. It's going to be another couple of hundred years before we get a definitive New Testament, but you can basically see it in those manuscripts we have from around 200, and we have only a handful of Gospel fragments earlier than that, and they include the Gospel of Mark and the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Peter. But by the time you get to 200, it appears that what we would recognize as the New Testament is beginning to coalesce.